here's the thing. The first question everybody always asks is, well, are you rich?
You're living in Canada, and I'm in Australia, Sydney. And you're in what area of Canada are you?
The southwest Ontario, which is kind of between Detroit and Buffalo. So, I
Some pretty
mean,
rugged wilderness.
not around here, but I go up north. I go prospecting. It's a hobby. It's not a money maker, but it gives me excuse to go out into the wilderness with a purpose. See, if somebody said go on vacation into the wilderness, I'd be looking at the mosquitoes and the bears. But 16 years ago, I was in a used bookstore. And again, by then I've heard of a little bit of remote viewing, but not how to do it. And I literally felt like something grabbed my head, turned it, turned it all the way around, and made me look at the bottom shelf on this bookstore. It's full of books. And I'm looking at a little book called Cosmic Voyages. And I'm like, oh, that sounds interesting. So I pick it up and it happened to be about remote viewing. So I'm like, oh, maybe this book will help me. It's almost felt like my unconscious said to me, listen, this is so important. You're gonna look at it. You have to look at it. It's that important. And so I started looking at it and stumbled across Major Ed Dames from coast to coast. And I'm like, oh, that's the guy. So then I found his teaching materials, and then I was able to start learning and start practicing.
Would you be able to walk us through a typical remote viewing session? Because throwing bones and
Yeah.
looking at tea leaves, that's we don't regard that as remote viewing.
No, and
What
that's
is
where
what is it that makes remote viewing what it is?
everybody, like I said, too many things really get thrown in under this remote viewing umbrella. One of the first things that Ingo Swann realized, and this has been shown with a lot of the people who were tested to be real psychic, is whenever you're working on something like this, as soon as you put your pen onto paper, you always do this weird squiggle. And we actually had to use remote viewing to figure out that it's like a zip file for all the information associated with that target. So if I get a target, I just have random numbers, right? 7, 8, 4, 5. I'd be like, I put my pen to the paper, I get this weird squiggle. And if you really get good, you can look at the squiggle like, oh, that's a life form. That's wavy like water or land. And you can kind of sort it out, but you don't need to. You're just gonna do your little squiggle and then feel what is the target. So your remember, your conscious mind that saves you from tigers in the tree is constantly interrupting. So you get distracted by being neat, by good penmanship, by being orderly, so that your unconscious mind that really does all this work can go about it. And we're going to go, what colors are there? What textures? Well, technically, textures are first. Is this smooth? Is this wet? Is it glossy? Then you go on to the next one, like, do associate any tastes with this target? Because you don't know what you're looking at, right? You could be looking at a cake recipe and no guessing. If you ever get pictures and images in your mind, that's your conscious mind, your tiger fighting mind trying to figure out, oh, that squiggle looks like a car. It's a car. I bet you it's a car. And you gotta make it go away. You can only do this while you're blind because that little bit of knowledge will sidetrack you. Like I said, if I know it's pirate treasure, oh, it's got to be the Caribbean because that's where they all went, right? History books. Every movie is going to derail you. My dad was having some ailments, and same thing, random. It was hidden with a bunch of other numbers. So, every day we do something. Eventually his optimum health trajectory came up. Again, I
Mm.
don't know it. I just did random numbers. I drew this little box. It's like a three-dimensional box with signals and electricity. I didn't know what it was, right? He did it. He got the same thing I did, this little rectangular object, no idea. So I'm like, if I did it and he did it randomly and we get the same thing, then this is definitely a health issue, but what is it? So I got a friend out in Philippines. She was a very good remote viewer. So she did the session for me, gave me back the exact same things. The only thing she drew different is she drew a little line and called it antenna, and she wrote the words GPS. That's the only two things that my dad and I missed. So we're looking at this thing. It's like signal, radio, GPS, antenna. That's his work cell phone because he had the removable antenna back in early 2010s at that time. And we were like, what is happening here? So we started doing the research, and his boss kind of let it know that, yeah, well, they're tracking them at work for GPS. But what this phone was doing is it was transmitting almost nonstop. So it's supposed to like save up your coordinates and transmit like where you are
Oh,
for
wow.
safety's sake. But what it was doing is it's like his intestinal region was constantly bombarded by this radio signal, like nonstop, which explained why the battery that should last days was going dead on a daily basis. It's very important. I mean, you gotta take care of yourself. Money can't buy you health, right? You can go to doctors and you're hoping they run the right test, and it doesn't always show anything. So in that case, they were starting to throw around the C word, cancer. Turned out this phone was so disruptive to his system that it probably the radiation that was causing it, right? So once we got the phone sorted out, we ran the session again, and we got vitamin C, massive amounts of vitamin C. We're talking like 10, 15, 20,000 units like that. So, like I said, you start trusting this stuff. You're like, okay, it says vitamin C. And within a couple of weeks, everything was fine.
You mean what
So,
he was looking better, feeling better?
oh, way better. All the issues went away because the phone that was causing it got removed. It got put into a shielded case. We specially made it for him. And then the vitamin, I mean, I'm not a doctor. I can't legally tell you that 10 or 15,000 units of vitamin C will cure cancer. But in that particular case, either it did or it helped a lot. I don't know. But if I'm ever going to have similar concerns, I'm heading to the pharmacy for a bottle of vitamin C. So,
And a remote viewing session.
oh, absolutely. Because here's the thing, the first question everybody always asks is, well, are you rich? I'm like, I I fixed my dad. If he would have passed, what's $1 million if you lose someone you love, right? Like, you can't put money in front of everything, right? You can always make more money. You can't buy back health. You can't buy back relatives. So don't be like, oh, well, I have to be a millionaire or else I won't be happy. You know what? I wanted to be rich one day. I did. I used remote viewing. Um, I I don't want to say what I did, but my best weekend and a Saturday, I made $23,000. And I said, you know what? I'm gonna quit working. I was making 120 grand a year working, and I quit that. I had to reduce my life because you're not gonna make that money every weekend. I had some good weeks, some not so good weeks. I've never made as much money as I did being employed, but I learned to appreciate life. The really things really matter. Um,
And health,
little,
health is definitely something that costs you a lot of money if things start going wrong. And so there is an
absolutely,
advantage in just looking
absolutely.
at it that way.
So one of the things you got to figure out for yourself is what's the most important for you.
Mm.
Like I said, most people want money. I want my health. I want my family. Um, like so I don't live in the big fancy houses. Most people would call me successful, but I'm doing all right. And you can literally use, like I said, if you could put it into a question, you can get an answer. Like, a lot of people look at if you're gonna go buy a brand new car, you're into like 50, 60, 80 grand. Back in 2014, I I'm gonna need a vehicle because I could I already had an idea I'm gonna quit working. So I looked at my optimum vehicle and I drew a pickup truck. I figured out very quickly what it was because I knew from the engine, right?
Mm.
What kind of pickup truck? It was a long, skinny engine, so I knew it was a Cummins diesel. And all the little signs that showed up, uh, again, using remote viewing, I found the dealership and I bought the truck. And it's been 10 years and 150,000 kilometers, no trouble. I mean, we go into logging roads, we go into places not maintained, not winter, no winter maintenance on the road and snow. And I'm like, that truly is the best truck.
Yep.
A lot of remote viewers like finding missing people. It's like, oh, this crime happened in my town, and I've heard about it, so let's try and solve it. So I've helped people do that. And we had this case. Um, I I don't know how much I can say, so I'm not going to say the particulars because it's still ongoing. So it was a murder case, and friend of the family asked to reach out to us. So we remote viewed it, like three or four of us. We got a very good description of the site. So they went out there, didn't find anything, and we are like, know what happened. So we looked at it again, and now it was miles and miles way over different part of town. And we're like, how do you make that mistake? So again, the family runs out, cadaver dogs, everybody, nothing. So we've been looking for the body. So it turned out the dude's best friend killed him, knew where the body was. So when the family's like, oh, we're gonna go get the body tomorrow, he ran out and moved the body. So then that's why we couldn't find it, because the best friend, son of a gun, he shot him. So the family's telling him that, hey, we're gonna go over here. He knows exactly where the body's. He moved it. So we should have looked at the killer himself
Mhm.
instead of just finding the body. We just thought, hey, we can find the body. We can. It was a learning experience that
That's
we,
ongoing or resolved pretty much.
it's a cold case because without a body in the United States, there's not a lot we can do. And the guy made sure there's no body. So we tried, no fault over. Oh, we didn't think so, right? Like, how often is the best friend a killer? We thought it was like a bar fight or something. We didn't know. It was over a girl, best friend. So I've done stuff like that. There was a girl that fell through the ice a couple of hours here away from here, young girl, 12. Um, I went up, I talked to the fire department. I couldn't talk to the guy in search. But I told him like she's at this dam, and I still have the screenshots of all the information. I'm like, she's at this dam, she's down here, and they're like, it can't be. She fell in the ice, 70, 80 kilometers. There's no way. And they refused. 6 days before they found the body, I told them exactly where it's gonna be.